move through into chapter 3 now. So we've now identified the customer mood and we've got an understanding of their unspoken need. So in this final chapter, I want to focus on how we can deliver that really deep, amazing customer service that leaves them really feeling kind of wow. They probably won't be able to put it into words, but they just know that somehow you've made a deep connection with them at an unconscious kind of level. So to make this deep connection and deliver that amazing service, we need to turn our attention now to ourselves now. So we need to take a good look at ourselves in that role of service giver, service provider, because we need to have that awareness of how our customers, how your customers may perceive the service that you deliver if you operate from your own behavioural preference and ignore their mood. So we'll take a few kind of moments to reflect on the behavioural preferences and how they may be perceived by customers who are presenting in a different behavioural mood. So our ever ready, for example, may well come across as overpowering, a little bit rude, a little bit impatient, even scary and unfriendly at times. So a little bit too kind of controlling. So the fact that I speak quickly, blunt, direct, straight to the point, it might be whoa from a customer's perspective. How do you think a ray of sunshine service giver may be perceived if the customer isn't in a ray of sunshine type mood? Can you imagine a Mr. Huey Blue wants all that correct detail and information, and there's you, you know, being your full kind of ray of sunshine, being your chatty kind of self, perhaps even cracking the odd joke or, you know, a little bit of banter. Oh, yes, so, you know, who is this person? How unprofessional are they? How absolutely disorganized are they? Do they really know what they're doing? Yeah, so we can start to see how it's really kind of key that we start to come closer to those customer moods and understand those customer moods. So a caring, now a caring, especially again, going with that direct opposite is also where we get that greatest kind of contrast. So me as a red, a strong red, actually receiving service from a green caring provider, service giver, then, oh, for goodness sake, just, you know, speed it up a little bit. They don't give necessarily that confidence, that they can be seen as being a little bit indecisive. They can even be perceived as being a bit nosy. What difference does it make to you who this present's for or whatever? Yeah, now they might be asking genuine questions that will help them in their world to actually help us better, to deliver better customer service. But from a red perspective, no, they may well be being perceived as being too talkative, too slow, unsure, lacking in confidence. So again, you can start to see why it's so important that we're actually aware of these moods, unspoken needs, and can adjust accordingly. So Mr. Huey Blue might be perceived as a bit of a job's worth, too pedantic, too long-winded, unfriendly, boring, doesn't they? Oh, they go on with all, I don't want all that information. I just wanted a simple yes or no kind of answer. So that just again gives you some insight into how we may be perceived as the service giver if we ignore the customers' moods. So obviously, as the service giver, we don't intend to come across in that way, far from it. So that's why it's, you know, as I say, important we understand more about our customers. Now, one of the things that we know from brain science is that when we're under pressure, we start to feel overwhelmed, we perhaps start to feel stressed, or perhaps if you're under the weather, you're not feeling so great yourself, then unless we have really high levels of self-awareness and are able to regulate our emotional responses, the likelihood is that we will naturally operate from our own behavioural preference, and we won't focus on those unspoken needs of the customer. And that's why we need a behavioural framework, a reference point to help us as service givers to make recognising the customer moods as simple as possible and allow us to develop some kind of behavioural habits to deliver that personalised, kind of individualised, bespoke service aligned to the customer moods. So habit formation is an important part of this kind of amazing service delivery, because habits are very energy efficient from a brain's perspective. And bearing in mind just how kind of stressed we know people are, how overwhelmed, how worried they are about all the uncertainties in the world, we know that service givers are already struggling with all that uncertainty, with the kind of stress and frazzle. So it's really important that we help our team out, we help our service givers to actually conserve as much brain power as possible, just to help them get through the day, which is why that we look at kind of habit formation.